Sony has the task of constantly developing products that bring us things we want before we even knew we wanted them. Now, how do they do that? Well, Allison is the man who has to put what the customer wants at the heart of what Sony does, and that is right from the design of the product to the moment when you go into the shop or you go online to buy the thing. And Sony calls him Head of Customer Centricity. So please welcome Allison.
Thank you, Winifred. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to take you through a little bit of a story. At the beginning sort of my career, when I started to be interested in customer experience, and I was fascinated by this big question: how do you become customer-centric as an organization? And if this is a model of a business where normally you put the customer in the brand marketing area, so if you are a brand-centric business, how do you actually do this? How do you actually put the customer at the center of what you do? And what I was aware of was a lot of people talk about it, but there's very few examples of where an organization actually has transformed in that way. All the examples I could find were companies that had started in that fashion. So working for an organization, as Winifred said, that was used to making products and technology that people wanted, how could we be better at doing this kind of thing and putting the customer at the center of what we did? So I started looking for questions and answers around this thing, and I talked to various people. And a few years ago, the gold rush was social media, and what I was being told was what you need to do is prioritize social media. That is absolutely key. That is how you should engage with customers. Now, we do engage a lot with customers these days in social media, but at that time, this was how customers wanted to talk to us. And largely now, if customers have an issue, this is the means they want to contact us by, whatever age group they are. I've talked to customers who are from 18 to 75 plus. This is how they want to talk to us as a brand. And then people said to me, well, there's an IT solution. This can solve absolutely everything. You need a connected mobile and traditional IT platform to deliver a seamless experience for your customer. And yes, we do invest in those kind of things. But what's very apparent to me is that if your people are not on that journey with you, your customer can still have a bad experience. And on Saturday, I went into a very well-respected retailer, very well known for its customer experience, and I had a bad experience because of an interaction that I had with a member of staff. So this to me is a very, very important component. And then there is this big question about how do you understand your customer anyway? People say, well, you should use maybe personas, little pen portraits to help you understand the different kinds of customers that you have in your business. Maybe you use socioeconomic groups. So in the UK now, there are 7 socioeconomic groups, so you can target specific customer types. Or maybe you use segmentation. So if you look at that example that I've got here of segmentation, where you've got along the top the different customer types, and then you've got all the age groups down the side, and where they intersect, the size of the blob is the percentage of that particular group on the European market. If you try and talk to or engage with your customers in that way, you can end up with different campaigns for the same thing, because you're trying to engage with people in different ways. When actually what was absolutely clear to me was what we needed to do was something like this. We needed to understand our customer needs, and if we understand our customer needs, we can do this kind of thing. We can have initiatives, products, propositions, whatever, that actually really tap in to those needs in a big way. So a big sort of question for me after this thinking was, how do you make this happen? Now, how many of you, quick show of hands, you probably didn't expect some audience interaction, but I'm going to do it right now. How many of you have tiled a floor? Put your hand up. Oh, I have done too. A lot of you. Okay. If you've tiled a floor, you would know there's quite a skill to actually getting it to look like this, where, as you can see, those tiles line up with that doorway. And you probably know about the key tile. Now, when you actually tile a floor, like on this kind of example here, The key tile is the first tile you lay, and it's the one that makes all the tiles line up on corridors, doorways, and the doorway over the side there. And all the other tiles are laid around that. It's the most important tile that you lay on the floor. And I thought, what's the key tile in customer experience? And I've come to increasingly believe this, and I've seen the power of actually engaging in this in the most effective way. And I firmly believe it's the people in the business. That, to me, is the one thing in the business that makes absolutely everything happen. It doesn't matter how good or bad your IT systems are, it is your people that make the biggest difference. And this kind of underlined my view on Saturday when I had this experience in retail. Now, one of the key things is developing a process to understand customer needs, engaging your people in the process, and actually, if you do that in an effective way, you can create a very powerful call to action within your business. And I just want to talk a little bit about this piece here around understanding customer needs. As customer experience professionals, certainly for me, what I'm trying to do is this kind of thing here. I'm trying to improve customer engagement, and the customer satisfaction measurement that I largely use is Net Promoter Score. I use that as a benchmark in terms of whether I'm actually achieving that. And what's been clear to me is that from a customer needs perspective, they fall into two main areas. You get rational ones. So if you're a bank, like First Direct, the rational need, or one of the big rational needs, is look after my money, for example. If you're a consumer electronics company like Sony, when somebody goes out to buy a TV, they're looking at size, they're looking at high definition, where they want a 4K TV, so 4 times normal HD resolution, these kind of things, and price and that kind of stuff. But actually, there are some big emotional needs as well. What are these things that would make consumers love your brand? So there's the rational ones around what do they expect and need from you, and these emotional ones around what will make them love your brand. So in the TV example, that is the content, the actual experience of using that product, which is the lifetime engagement that they have after they've bought that product from you. Once you understand those two, you can build your proposition. So you understand the needs and then build the proposition. Now, I suppose it's kind of like interesting to understand what a proposition can be. So does it have to be a product or something like that? It can be how you position your brand. And I think it's quite an interesting exercise. I'm sure it's a good question to ask in the business. Do you really understand the customer needs of your brand? And are you actually meeting those customer needs? It can be a service program that you have for your customers. It can be a one-off promotion that you do. It can be a new product that you are positioning in the market. So it may be a product that you've developed because technology allows that. It may be developed with some insight, but how you actually position it, you can understand the needs to do that. It could be a customer engagement program, and for me, it is any activity that touches the customer. That is my definition of a proposition. And for me, certainly within our business, the first question for me, for any proposition, is what customer needs does this meet? And if the answer is, I don't know, or there isn't an answer, then why the hell would you be doing it in the first place? Because it should really tap into something that means something from your customer. So I just kind of want to destruction test this in front of you. A few months ago, there was some research, quite public research, that said that most customers will pay more for a better experience. And my challenge to that is, okay, why is Ryanair one of the most successful airlines in the industry? Because they absolutely nail rational customer needs. Customers want a cheap price to fly somewhere. Ryanair do an absolutely amazing job of marketing and PRing the fact that they are very good at meeting that need, even to the point of telling you that they may charge you to go and use the toilet, or you may have to stand up on the plane. It absolutely underpins meeting that rational need of price. And then you have a brand like Ferrari. Now, I'm a little bit into motor racing, and I'm always fascinated by the love that people talk about this brand with. Even the other day, I had a guy behind me who was in a Ferrari in a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit and kept slowing down and speeding up so he could hear the sound of the engine. Everything this brand does is around that engagement at that kind of level with their customers, and even people who will never own one think about the brand in exactly the same way. Now, I believe that meeting customer needs is incredibly powerful, and I just want to take you back a little bit to an advertising campaign that Sony did around the launch of PlayStation a few years ago.
I do my job. I ride the bus, roll up my sleeves with the hoi polloi. At night, I live a life of exhilaration.
Of missed heartbeats and adrenaline.
And, if the truth be known,
A life of dubious virtue.
I won't deny I've been engaged in violence, even indulged in it.
I've maimed and killed adversaries, and not merely in self-defence.
I've exhibited disregard for life,
Limb
and property.
and savoured every moment.
You may not think it to look at me,
But I have commanded armies and conquered realms.
and though in achieving these things,
I've set morality aside.
I have no regrets.
For though I've led a double life, at least I can say
I've lived.
Now, that was the campaign that Sony had at the launch of PlayStation when we first came into the market. And Sony went to #1 straight away and held that position for many years. And it was a very powerful campaign. And I think since we've really understood that it tapped into clear customer needs. During the research around that campaign, we asked a very key question of people who were gamers, which was, how does gaming make you feel? Feel, an excellent word to try and understand emotion. And people talked about, like I'm in a different world. And that's what that campaign really tapped into, the emotional experience of gaming. And that's why it was very successful. So I just want to talk a little bit about this engaging people in the process. For me, insight isn't something that happens exclusively from your people in your business. It has to engage the people in the business. And it's not a passive thing. It's a very, very active thing. And we had a conference a few years ago, which was kind of on this sort of size. We had all the top people from Sony across Europe in a room. And I was talking about how important it is to engage with the customer. And then I announced that 26 customers were going to join us. They were all upset with us as a brand. They were NPS 0 to 3, detractors. And this is kind of almost the attention that I got from people in the room at that time. We did an hour's speed dating with those people. And everybody thought, what a fantastic experience. We really need to work more closely on this kind of thing going forward. And a lot of senior executives from Sony gave these customers their business cards, so I'm sure they ended up with all sorts of nice Sony products at the end of it. But it really did a very good job of engaging people. And I kind of thought, how could you do this on a day-to-day basis? You can do these customer kind of sessions, but how could you do it on a day-to-day basis? What would give us the insight, firstly, and most importantly? What would change our behavior, engage the organization, and create a really strong call to action? And what I kind of thought was, could we run our own focus groups as a business? And the challenge that I actually had around that was, would something actually that simple work for us in terms of really moving us forward? So there were a number of challenges in terms of starting this. The first one is kind of like a belief that we can't do this, this is a skill. This is why we use a third-party agency to do it. I have a very strong belief that anything one human learns, another one can learn. So I was quite confident that we could do this. The great advantage of doing it ourselves is that you get the insight in the business the following day. Whereas if you do it through a third party, you generally have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to get that feedback. People thinking that actually we don't have a business where we engage with customers directly. We're a supplier, so we shouldn't really talk to customers directly. But all the experience that I'd had talking to customers in the way up to this, people love to talk to us as a brand. So anything where we could do that more would be absolutely fantastic. And people thinking that, okay, if we bring people in the building, it'll create bias. Yes, okay, maybe we need to do some of the work in third-party facilities, but if you bring the people who are your promoters into your building, it's fantastic. They absolutely love you for it, and you can do some great co-creation, brand building, product building sessions with those people as well. So we put a facility in one of our buildings. No two-way glass. If you want to engage with a customer, you are in the room with the customer. We now have 10 facilities around the world, including the Sony University in Singapore. And we trained our people up. And in the first training session, on the first day, we had 2 professional moderators to train us with these new skills. And one of them told us 10 times during that training, you can't do this, you should be using professional agencies, etc., etc. We didn't invite that person back for subsequent training, we used somebody else. But on the first night, I was a bit concerned. Is this actually going to work? Is this going to be something that takes us forward? Is it going to be an absolute disaster? And we started doing this in March of 2010. And since then, within our business, we have 62 people who are trained to moderate discussion groups with customers. These are people, sales, marketing, HR, whatever, who have developed this skill. We've conducted almost 600 discussion groups, almost 160 topics, talking to 2,392 consumers. And the thing that I've seen is that this is transformational. Wide customer engagement enables this understanding of customer needs. It moves the culture forwards and it creates a strong call to action as well. And also what I found in all of those discussion groups is that there are only 6 customer needs. Interesting hearing Mark talk about simplicity. Often I think we overcomplicate things, but there are only 6 customer needs, macro needs. There are micro ones, but there are 6 macro customer needs. And I'm just going to talk about one which is probably an obvious one, which is I need help, which has micro needs about getting technical advice, tutorials, repair, and that kind of thing as well. Now, we offer a very slick repair operation for our laptop computers, via computers, where you phone up a call center, somebody sends you a box, you put your laptop in it, send it off, and it comes back within a few days repaired. And we run a Net Promoter Score customer satisfaction survey with that. And if you look at the data in the survey, it said that the key to increasing our customer satisfaction would be to reduce the repair time, so the amount of time the product's away, and to reduce the repair cost. Now, obviously, as a business, those are 2 challenging things to do, and you will get pushback in the business to say, actually, if you reduce the time, that has a cost associated with it. If you reduce the repair cost, well, that's an issue because it reduces your margin, and those sort of things as well. So this was a good opportunity for us to understand customer needs in greater detail. So there were clear micro needs that people talked about around technical knowledge, around the guy they talked to owning the problem, and also some flexibility on time as well. They didn't want to be restricted to a call center that may be open between 9 and 5:30. They wanted some time flexibility. So we quantified that. We sent out a survey to a wide group of consumers with the findings from our customer lab session. And the key things that people talked about was time flexibility, somebody who was understandable technically and could help them, and also somebody who really understood the technology associated with these products. So we put together a value proposition that we would help any of our trusted customers find an easy resolution to their problems. We would trust everybody. We wouldn't dispute anything that the customer told us. We would make it easy. We would offer a consistent process. We would make it very clear for them. Resolution would be defined as to the satisfaction of the customer, not when we thought it had been resolved. We would help our customers with anything that they had as an issue. No question would go unanswered. And a problem was defined as anything that the customer thought was a problem. So wherever they bought it from, we would still look at that as well, no problem at all. And we were looking at upper quartile Net Promoter Score customer satisfaction. So we weren't interested in getting customer satisfaction less than 50. And for a service proposition, that's very high. Because if you're offering a pure service, and service industries probably know this quite well, customers are more critical. If you're selling a product as well as a service, then there's the product wow, which kind of increases the customer satisfaction. But this was just around a service experience. So we thought, okay, we've got all of these Sony stores around the country. Could we offer repair and support through the stores? The guys in the store are technically knowledgeable, they're trained up. Can we get them to take these products in and service them. So we trained the guys to understand customer needs, and we provided a simple process. And actually, if somebody just walked in, you didn't have to book. We would give a free evaluation of any problems. If it was something simple, we would fix it there and then, and in most cases, we wouldn't even charge people for it. If it was a usage issue, so the machine was okay, but the customer didn't know how to use it properly, we would offer free training to use it. But if the product was actually faulty, we would offer a managed repair service. So the guy in the store would send it off and keep in contact with the customer to let them know when it was coming back. We got some amazing feedback. When we started trialing this, we got some amazing feedback. People talking about they were delighted with the information provided and would definitely visit again if they wanted information or help. Absolutely impeccable service, can't praise him enough. He deserves a pay rise and a promotion. Polite, helpful and quick repair, even through holiday period. And somebody saying they would like to praise the salesperson. He was very helpful and they were impressed by his amazing service towards their problem. We started getting a consistent NPS of 55 from doing that, just for a repair proposition, which we felt was a very good performance from that. So we rolled it out from the trial stores to all stores, and we rolled it out to all products as well. So today, if you go into a Sony store, somebody would give you this proposition. What was quite interesting is one of the stores, somebody brought in a non-Sony computer and had an issue with it. And people were so focused on providing customer service, the guy looked after them and fixed their problem, gave it back to the customer. And a week later, that customer came back and bought a Sony Vaio laptop. So it just kind of like, you know, those kind of instances sometimes are hidden in terms of customer service really does make a commercial difference, but we've really been seeing that from doing this kind of thing. The other thing that I think that's quite key is that if you understand customer needs, I talked about positioning product. This was an advertising campaign that we used for a new camera called the NEX type of camera. So this tiny camera has an interchangeable lens. You can take the lens off and put a different one on it. And it gives the same performance as a big digital SLR camera, but it's a lot smaller. So this was a new product that we were launching, and we really engaged with customers to try and find out how to position that effectively for them. And this strapline that we've got at the top, performs like a pro, feels like a compact, came out of that understanding of customer needs, and we quantified that as well and got a fantastic response from the survey when we asked people, what does this mean for them? And that product has been very successful, and subsequent research has shown that this line really helps people understand what that product is all about. And we obviously have quite a big B2B business. We sell professional cameras and that kind of thing. And what's interesting for me is actually, I've kind of learned that people are people. So people think often that B2B is different. I believe it isn't. People are really driven by the same kind of things. And we did a piece of work to understand the needs of professional cameramen. So we have an engagement program that after somebody's bought a Sony professional camera, after they've registered it, we talk to them through a newsletter campaign. And that was informed by understanding the needs of those guys. What do they actually need from us as a brand? And you can see on this that, you know, the open rate, the industry average for an open rate on a normal email newsletter is 19.3. We're getting 45%, and click-through rates of 20% versus 2.3 for the industry. So for me, you know, it does make campaigns and engagement programs that you do far more effective if you go into that clearly understanding the needs of the customer. So just to summarize, I'd just like to say that I think that understanding customer needs is absolutely essential and key to customer experience. All customer propositions need to be based on understanding customer needs, and if you do that, they will be far more effective. And actually, engaging the staff in the process creates a powerful call to action, really powerful call to action. And you don't need people in the business to report to you. You can put teams together and engage them in this kind of process, and they really feel driven to provide that better experience for the customer. And for me, focusing on these needs is really game-changing, not only for customer experience, but what I've seen is that commercially, for you as a business, it can be really, really game-changing. That concludes my presentation. I'm on the open link on LinkedIn if any of you want to link in with me. That's my email address if you want to drop me a note and talk about this kind of thing more, or we can have a chat in the break. Thank you for your attention.